Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the psychology of financial peace and how we can actually move from total chaos to a place of solid structure. We're going to completely flip how you look at your bank account, your daily habits, and most importantly, your peace of mind. We're looking way past just the numbers here, digging straight into the psychology of exactly why we do what we do with our money.
So let me start by asking you a really central question. Does making more money actually solve financial stress? I mean, it's the universal assumption, right? We all kind of believe that if we just landed a better salary, a bigger bonus, or maybe started a side hustle, all of our anxieties would just instantly vanish. But the material we're breaking down today fundamentally challenges that whole idea. It actually points out that if you're only focusing on income, you're looking at the complete wrong end of the problem.
Look, it's a huge misconception that making more money is this magic cure-all. Surprisingly enough, studies constantly show that even high-income earners frequently find themselves living paycheck to paycheck. Seriously, a massive income can still leave you feeling completely trapped day in and day out, while someone earning significantly less can be living with profound peace, stability, and confidence. So why is that? Well, the difference isn't luck, and it sure isn't just the paycheck. The real difference? It's behavior. The hard reality here is that you simply cannot out-earn a lack of structure.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the trap of chaos, and how financial overwhelm basically hijacks the brain.
Financial chaos doesn't just put a dent in your bank account. It literally takes a hostage. It takes control of your thoughts, and the cascading effects of this are just incredibly destructive. You wake up stressing about bills. You go to sleep agonizing over debt. Your focus, completely gone. Your energy just disappears. Even when you're at work, your mind is a million miles away, calculating all these problems instead of actually creating solutions. Over time, the more overwhelmed you get, the less clearly you think. Eventually, you completely stop building a life and you're forced directly into survival mode.
And when your brain gets hijacked by that kind of financial chaos, every single expense becomes emotional. Every purchase just becomes this temporary relief. I mean, we've all fallen victim to a little retail therapy after a brutal day, right? But when you become reactive instead of intentional, you aren't buying things because you logically need them, you're buying relief. You're buying a break from stress, from insecurity, maybe from comparing yourself to others. Spending literally turns into a coping mechanism, and that only accelerates the downward spiral because every paycheck disappears before it even hits your account. Check out this quote from our sources. When everyone around them lives the same way, dysfunction starts looking normal. Honestly, that's terrifying, but it is so true. After a while, the stress just becomes so constant that people stop questioning it. They start believing that crushing anxiety is just, a standard part of being an adult. They normalize chronic debt. They normalize having zero savings. They normalize being just one single emergency away from total panic. We just accept the chaos because, everyone else is participating in it too. Moving right along to Section 2. Impulse versus discipline, the invisible internal battle. So there comes this moment of super uncomfortable awareness where you realize the real battle isn't external at all. It's not the economy. It's happening right inside your own mind every single day. And once you finally see your own destructive patterns, you can't pretend you're powerless anymore. This battle boils down to satisfying a sudden impulse for short-term pleasure today versus making an intentional, structural decision for long-term freedom tomorrow.
But here is exactly where so many people trip up. The danger of impatience. The absolute hardest part about changing your financial reality is that real transformation is often painfully invisible at first. You stick to a budget for months and you still don't feel rich. You make sacrifices and you still don't feel completely secure. People totally underestimate how dangerous it is to expect immediate results. After a few months of grinding, they get impatient and they reward themselves with the exact same habits that destroyed their finances in the very first place. They tell themselves, I deserve a break. But really, it's just self-sabotage disguised as a reward.
As this insight perfectly captures, growth was never meant to be a straight line. It is messy, it is repetitive. You guys, setbacks are completely normal. The problem isn't making a mistake. The problem is using that mistake as an excuse to just abandon the entire process. One bad purchase absolutely does not erase months of progress. Well, unless you decide it does. True transformation requires an incredibly uncommon level of patience, just letting those financial roots grow strong enough to actually support your future.
Think about it. Modern life basically trains us to chase constant stimulation and quick validation. That's motivation. It's emotional, and it's highly temporary. It vanishes the literal second life gets hard or even just boring. Discipline, on the other hand, is structural. It is permanent. It sticks around even when you're completely exhausted. If you genuinely want to change your financial life, your habits simply must become stronger than your moods.
Which brings us to this absolutely beautiful redefinition of a word that usually gets a really bad rap: restraint. Restraint is not deprivation. It is not misery. Restraint is simply the ability to say no to something right now because you respect your future enough to protect it. Wow, that is a massive shift in mindset. It transforms budgeting from feeling like a punishment into this proactive tool of maturity and deep self-respect. Once you gain that level of control over your behavior, money entirely stops controlling your emotions.
Okay, let's dive into Section 3, building your financial structure, moving from awareness to action. So, how do we actually do this? Well, first, you have to escape financial avoidance. Avoiding looking at your finances is never going to create freedom. Clarity is what does that. So step 1, gain awareness. You absolutely have to know exactly where your money goes. Step 2, be honest. You got to acknowledge how much you're wasting on emotional purchases, or let's be real, trying to impress people who aren't even thinking about you. Clarity forces accountability, and once you're finally honest with yourself, you reach step 3, build structure. You stop relying on hope and luck, and you actually begin to build a lasting, reliable foundation. And what does that structure actually look like in practice? It looks like these 4 highly intentional automated behaviors. Number 1, you save automatically, taking all the day-to-day decision-making out of it, set it and forget it. 2, you spend intentionally, actively separating absolute needs from those fleeting impulses we talked about. 3, you build emergency reserves, so something like a flat tire doesn't completely derail your entire month. And 4, you patiently develop skills to expand your income over time, rather than desperately chasing after risky shortcuts.
This is a truth you really need to internalize. Freedom is earned in private long before it is visible in public. It's so true. The people who eventually create true, lasting stability aren't the ones making the most noise or flashing the most luxury on social media. No way. They are the people making quiet, consistent, totally unglamorous decisions repeatedly, day after day, when absolutely no one is watching.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, becoming your future self, and how small choices become destiny.
Because your identity is heavily influenced by your environment, we really have to talk about who you're surrounding yourself with. If you are constantly surrounded by irresponsible peers who spend way beyond their means and complain without ever changing, you are going to slowly absorb that chaotic mindset. It drags you down. But if you surround yourself with value-driven peers who prioritize things like growth, patience, and accountability, your own habits are naturally elevated. It's pretty simple. Your environment either supports your discipline or it sabotages it.
And here is a slightly uncomfortable truth that you just have to accept. Lasting transformation demands discomfort first. A lot of people secretly want their lives to change without actually making any real sacrifices. They want the amazing outcome without adopting the identity required to sustain it. But you simply cannot build a brand new, secure future while staying emotionally attached to the exact same habits that destroyed your present. You have to be willing to sit in that discomfort for a while.
And that leads us to the ultimate paradigm shift. We really need to stop asking, how do I make more money? And start asking, can I trust myself with more responsibility? Because the stark reality is this. If a person cannot manage a little bit of money, handing them more money usually just magnifies their existing problems rather than magically solving them.
So if more money doesn't automatically create peace, what actually does? Well, control creates peace. Clarity creates peace. Discipline creates peace. Making decisions based on logic and reason rather than sheer desperation creates peace. True financial stability is the direct result of taking full ownership of your mindset and your habits, rather than just sitting around hoping for some external rescue that, let's be honest, is never going to come.
I want to leave you with this incredibly empowering message. Transformation is just a series of small decisions, repeated long enough to become a totally new identity. 6 months of doing this won't necessarily make you a millionaire, but 6 months of clarity, discipline, patience, and consistency, that can completely change the entire direction of your life. It starts out totally invisible, but one day you wake up and the stress is just lighter. The panic is quieter. You realize you didn't just change your bank account, you actually changed who you are.
So I'm going to leave you with this final question hanging in your mind. Can you trust yourself with more responsibility? I want you to really challenge your self-perception today, because until you can confidently say yes to that question, no amount of money will ever buy your peace. Think about it.